She's on her way up here. Any minute. Yeah, I decided to wait. She'll be here any second. Yeah. Oh, finish your business license application.
I'm afraid I'm
$50 check.
out of the zoning now.
Your $54 check, how much is it? Oh my God, it went up. It went up? Oh,
I don't even have a spare 100 on me. I usually carry one. I feel very guilty. I follow all the rules. That's the kind of person I am.
we'll make it retroactive, just kidding.
Maybe I have to pay a fee. Should be $54 from the previous. 54 for your last one? For my previous home operations.
Oh, yeah, 54 is what I pay. Went one up business. Private practice, I'm a clinical social worker. So I don't have like an office for them to come visit. I visit them in their home, but I visit them here in Sacramento. So having a business license helps me to, here in the home, kind of helps me to have a location. So I have to claim all of that on the PPC and, yeah.
My
do.
license with the state, or it's just through my Sacramento virtual office. So it's in my mailing address and everything.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and
Legitimate.
everybody's different though, so, yeah.
Anyway, I now legitimately can have upstairs.
Oh, then that makes
Right.
reason why you may have to do that. Somewhere over here, so we can go that way. Gavel this thing down. Good evening and welcome to the April 7th meeting of the West Sacramento Planning Commission. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Kelcher, would you please lead us tonight? Tonight's agenda is available on the counter along the side with the white request to speak cards. The request to speak cards should be completed and turned to the clerk on my right prior to the completion of any staff presentation. Also, for those speakers wishing to speak on items not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the commission, please write item A on your card, or if you wish to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please write the agenda item number in your card. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Speaking in public may cause individuals to feel uncomfortable, so everyone is asked to be professional and respectful to all speakers. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and televised, so all speakers, in order to be recognized, must be called on by the chair and come forward to the microphone and state your name for the record. We are having some technical problems with the microphones tonight, so we're going to work around that as we move along. At this time, we will take up any presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission. And at this time, I don't have any requests to speak. So we move on next to correspondence and staff communication from the Planning Commission Secretary, Mr. Tilley.
Yes, thank you, Chair Guerrero. Just would like to note for the commission that you should have 3 items of correspondence in front of you tonight. You should have a memo from myself regarding item number 2. You should have a letter from Tim Moreland also regarding item number 2. And then you should also have a memo from Kathy Allen regarding item number 3. If any commissioners are missing those 3 items, please let us know and we will get you a copy right away.
Everybody has those items with them then, okay. All right, is there any disclosure of ex parte communications among the commissioners? To my left? None? To my right? None? Okay. And I do have ex parte communication disclosure. On item number 2, I spoke with the applicant. Next on our agenda is consideration and approval of the minutes from the March 3rd commission meeting.
Madam Chair, I'm requesting one change to the minutes. Under entry number 3, there's a statement that the Planning Commission meeting conditioned the approval on City Council approval of ordinances 16-3 and 16-4. The intent from me on that was to delay the vote on the CUP until after the hearing by City Council. In other words, the first reading, not approval. So instead of approval, maybe first reading. I understand that they approved it. So this is all just kind of technical, but
Are you looking at the top of page 2?
I am, yes.
On top of page 2, okay.
Perhaps that should say move to continue, let's see, continue the hearing.
Let's see.
Because that was your motion at that time, was to continue that public hearing.
It wasn't moved based on the approval of ordinances. It was moved based on the first reading.
Perhaps we could say condition on city council consideration of those ordinances.
That was, thank you.
All right.
That will do it.
Consideration. Consideration, all right.
So with that, I move approval of minutes
As amended?
as amended.
As amended. All right. Second?
I'll second.
All right. And Commissioner Liebig has moved, and Commissioner Tumber has second. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None?
I'll abstain.
You'll
Madam
abstain?
Chair.
Commissioner Calter abstains. All right. Next item on our agenda is on the regular agenda item, the continued public hearing regarding a proposed conditional use permit for a cannabis distribution facility at 3121 Evergreen Avenue. Mr. Tilley, you'll be providing a presentation for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you again, Chair Guerrero. This item, as you stated, is a continued public hearing from your March 3rd meeting regarding proposed conditional use permit for what we're terming as a cannabis distribution facility. At the Commission's prior meeting, you also considered 2 other related parts of this project that were later then moved for City Council consideration. The Planning Commission at your previous meeting, voted on 2 Planning Commission resolutions to recommend approval of municipal code changes and a development agreement to the City Council related to this. But then at that time, the Commission deferred action on the conditional use permit until such time as the City Council could consider the 2 ordinances related to the municipal code changes and the development agreement. And the City Council did take up those 2 items last night, and they provided a positive vote of 5-0 on both of those items last night. As part of their discussion, they had many questions and considerations that were similar to what was brought here before in your hearing back on March 3rd. They asked some questions regarding security at this facility, and we referred to how the police have been working with the applicant and their security consultant on security matters. We discussed what the possible November initiative may mean for this item that's before us now. And they provided us some direction to make some clarifications in the development agreement and in the municipal code changes, primarily related to helping define better what we mean by the general public and also what it means for retail sales. So they provided that direction to staff and the city attorney and then approved first reading. But as part of that direction tonight is related to the use permit, which is before you. And so we are, as part of the memo that I have in front of you tonight on this item, we are recommending some additional language on conditions 4 and 5 for your consideration, as we believe this is what the direction was from the city council on this aspect of the project. So should the commission decide to act on the project tonight, we would ask that this revised language in that memo be included as part of a motion. So we are here now on a conditional use permit only for this proposed facility on Evergreen Avenue. It remains substantially as it was presented to you at our prior hearing in terms of its location, size, and operating aspects. And staff is recommending approval of this conditional use permit to you this evening with the recommended changes in the memorandum. So at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We also have our city attorney, Jeff Mitchell, and his assistant city manager, Amanda Berlin, here tonight.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff at this time? No questions? Okay, and is the applicant going to be providing a presentation at this time, or should we move on to individuals that have requested to speak?
The applicant is present tonight and could provide commentary if you wish at this time, or they can.
If the applicant would like to provide any comments, feel free to come on up and provide any comments. If not, we can move on to those who are requesting to speak. Okay, good. And we have 2 request to speak cards here for this item. Andy Kahn, you can please come on up and to the podium, make sure that it's accessible for us to be able to hear you speak. Thank you.
Hello, Commission.
It's in there.
Glad to be here.
Always been here.
Thank you for putting this on. We're really excited about what's going on in your decisions here for West Sacramento. I've been involved in this industry for so long that I actually knew Brownie Mary from San Francisco. It's been a long time working in social justice to see these changes happen. I am also, in the industry, I design labs and vertical grows and clone rooms, things like that. I've been doing this for 28 years, not totally with the cannabis industry, but from things like I've done all 4 of the vet meds for UC Davis. I have 2 clients that have expressed an interest in locating here in West Sacramento. One of them is a 20,000 square foot lab facility doing research and development on CBDs, which, as you probably know through your study, CBDs are the non-psychoactive part of the plant, and they've been proven and acknowledged by the federal government, that still ridiculously has us under Schedule 1, that they do have medical purpose. And that what we're seeing right now is the federal government admitting that cancer can be cured by CBDs, some cancers, not all. And again, these are really exciting times for me. I'm living my dream right now. I want to thank the River Wellness and that group for doing all of this work. And I have a question for Commission. I know you guys don't usually answer commissions or answer questions at this time, but I'm wondering if you guys have come up with a number of conditional use permits and what those bases are going to be on. The gentleman or the concern that wants to open the laboratory at 20,000 square feet is hiring 20 people to do this. They'll do this either here or in Sacramento, where Sacramento is just sitting on 90 permits that they're just waiting for the state of California. That's 90 permits for grows, for labs, for dispensaries, and all of that. So I'm hoping that West Sacramento will be as proactive in this. So my question is, have you guys come up with any amount of conditional use permits, or are you taking this on a one-by-one basis? And I'll just finish my presentation, and if someone could either answer that, or I'll leave my card and you can do that. And I have another client who also wants to set up labs here. We see this as a fantastic tax base. Both of my clients, I've read over your conditions for applying for the conditional use permit, and they meet all of these requirements, and they're well-funded, and so, happy days. We're looking to you guys to really assist in taking West Sacramento to the next position, and we believe that cannabis would be a big help. What shall I do about that question?
Mr. Khan, we'll answer the question after we're done with all the folks that are speaking
Okay,
here at
thank you
this
very
time.
much.
Do you want to answer the question right now? Okay.
Yeah, we are looking at these on a one-at-a-time basis.
On a one-by-one basis, okay. That's the answer, thank you. And we have another request to speak, Mr. Tim Moreland with the State Board of Equalization, and we have a letter from you as well. And heard you speak last night and requested this letter, so thank you for preparing this.
You're welcome. Thank you, Commission. I don't want to take too much of your time. Basically, just reiterate the points in my letter. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have about my letter. So I'm free game right now. Or I can answer them after, or you can contact me at my office.
Well, we appreciate knowing that you have a support, position on this proposal and, or what's before for the CUP. And, if there's anything else you wanted to add, in addition to the letter, that's fine. Okay.
Sounds great. And great, I commend you guys for taking this step. I believe it's important to embrace these distributors, and because, as the letter says, I believe they're a central part of this whole process. Even though we may have an initiative later, we're worried about medical right now, so let's
Okay.
deal with that. So, thank you.
Thank you. And we have a third request to speak that came up, Mr. Everett Reddington? Reddington, okay.
Hi, thank you. I am a resident of West Sacramento, and to speak that this is a justice for the community, I kind of doubt that when it kind of appears that, someone like me, I can't grow my own personal medical use in my own backyard here in West Sac. But now, since big money came in, you guys are allowing and changing policies and whatever, because big money's here, and I just don't see the justice in that. And I am a resident here in West Sac, and I have been fighting for, my own personal grow. It's just 6 plants. It's a plant. And, you guys never listen to us, but now big money's here and everybody's on it. So that's an injustice, I think. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, at this time, we will, does anybody have any questions for those folks? that
I
spoke?
don't have a question for any of the folks who spoke. By the way, thank you for coming out here on a Thursday night and contributing to this conversation. I was wondering if we can give an opportunity, are you representing fire or police? Okay, so I don't know if you or someone else could respond to the individuals with a medical marijuana card being able to grow on their property. Is there anyone who can address our policy on that?
Yeah, the cities does have a cultivation ordinance that essentially requires that to be done on indoors. And there's some other parameters to that, but to the extent those persons are authorized to do so for personal use, they may be able to do so. It is subject to an administrative cultivation permit, but it can be done, but on an indoors only.
Thank you for that clarification. Anecdotally, I'm aware that does happen in our city. So it might be possible, Mr. Everett, if you wanted to get the contact information of our staff, or if we have your contact information, they can contact you and let you know how to go about doing that, so that the city is allowing you to have, your growing rights as you're allowed. So that's my comment or question for that.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will close the public comment section, and at this time,
Are you looking to close the public hearing at this time?
not at this time, no, we
Okay.
have to take some action before that. Just wanted to close the public comment section. And are there any questions for the staff? Any, yes?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question on condition number 13, as this was one of the conditions that we discussed at the previous hearing was added, I believe, regarding the hours of receiving hours. And I was wondering if staff could clarify if they were able to find an actual code section or legal reference that identifies what the hours are.
It's my understanding that we're looking to the project description for the hours of operation, and as I believe, the hours spelled out in the project description are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for office hours. We're looking for different hours for same 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for delivery hours? Yes. Okay. So we can make a change to condition 13 to reflect the 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. delivery hours.
My personal preference would just be some specificity there for two reasons. One, I think it just helps strengthen the condition itself. But second, I tried to do my own research and find hours of operation for the liquor industry, and the only thing I could find was delivery hours for point-of-sale locations, not distribution centers. And so I didn't want this condition to be there and then actually have no reference to anything that's meaningful for the operation of this facility as a distribution center. And then if I have one other question, comment, or I guess something I will just bring up to my colleagues here on the commission. One of the concerns I did share with city staff last week was specific to allowing for will call pickups by companies that are point of sale for this industry. So in the food industry, for example, if a restaurant is out of potatoes on Friday afternoon, they can drive their vehicle to their food distributor and pick up the potatoes and get invoiced for it and bring it back so they're not out of potatoes for the weekend. And what I want to be sure is that personally at this facility that product is only coming in from growers or processors, and product is only going out with delivery trucks that are secure and have the secure security measures in place that the city staff work to. What I want to avoid is a situation where we have point of sale folks coming into the facility at any point of time and not having that same security and taking product and whatever sums out of the facility. So I know that was discussed briefly last night at the council meeting, and that there was an indication from the applicant that wouldn't be the case. But I think the point is strong enough because it's very common practice in similar industries that it should be specified specifically as a condition of this project. And I leave that open for discussion, but that's my two requests.
So Commissioner Sternfels, to confirm what you're talking about, conditions of approval, the city council made a recommendation to modify item 5, if you look at the memo. Would it be possible for you to make a recommendation for modifying that section so that would read, no distribution of cannabis or cannabis products directly to consumers or retailers shall occur directly from this facility? Would this be an appropriate section to address your concern?
I think it's one option. I'm indifferent as to whether or not it's included in that condition or it's a standalone condition. I just think it's important that if we all agree that that's something that we don't want to see happening, that it's identified in the conditions pretty explicitly.
Okay. I'm wondering if, Mr. Tilley, are you looking into that at this point, or, that's why I haven't said anything.
The modifications to condition 5 in the memos was attempting to get at this particular concept, so it's a matter of, do we get the language,
Did we get the language down?
exactly right or not?
Okay.
But that is what we were
It
attempting to
says
do.
consumer, and I think your question is also on distributor or
On
retailer.
Retailers, right.
I think we can come up with some language that will address that. Give us a couple of minutes to
A couple of minutes, okay.
noodle on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
I actually don't have much to add. I'll just speak generally on the policy. When we made the collective motion to approve the ordinance, recommend it to the council, have the council weigh in, and then, given their feedback, make a recommendation on the conditional use permit. I am satisfied that the council and any public testimony that was had demonstrated support for the ordinance, and with that, I'm very comfortable approving the conditional use permit. I also want to thank the applicants. I'm sure that you realize that you're getting into a somewhat lengthy process with this because everything is still so new and still moving because the policies are anticipated to change statewide. So I appreciate your patience, and I really appreciate the opportunity for folks bringing pretty much a brand-new industry to our city. And thank you, staff, for a lot of the effort that has gone into the research and the thoughtfulness of the staff report and all the activities you've been undertaking outside of the staff report, so thanks.
Commissioner Tumber?
I don't have anything to add, but I would also like to thank the applicant once again. And thank you, of course, to the staff for preparing a wonderful report.
All right, Commissioner Kelter? Any comments, questions? None? Commissioner Liebig?
Nothing of significance. I appreciate the staff's work on this. Regarding the changes to conditions, I'm open to restricting point of sale. I think that's fine as long as the applicants are okay with that. I'm slightly concerned with tightening hours of operation if we're talking about delivery. I think if we keep it the same as the alcohol industry, knowing what they are would be, I think, good enough for me. But the reason I'm concerned if we set it narrower, I just want to make sure that they're good with operations and they can function. Because I don't know actually how the delivery system works in this industry, but I could imagine getting out there prior to businesses opening would be beneficial. And so I want to make sure that we don't, actually it's the morning bookend, I don't want to move that in, so.
Yeah, I agree. My concern isn't so much in the actual times, but in my own inability to find a reference to actual hours of operation for this industry. And so my concern was that this condition was there, but it was actually meaningless because there is no set standard. So I'm totally open to the bounds with whatever the applicant's comfortable on, but I think if we're going to have a condition there about hours, that we should be specific in what those hours are.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I did attend the city council meeting last night, heard the discussion, very robust discussion. And, you know, there were interest on various angles, and you know, mainly some of the themes were around safety issues and also just the transfer of funds and how was that going to work out. And the State Board of Equalization, in having a conversation, you know, about that was, you know, with the city council meeting last night, I think demonstrated that there's a process already and things are being tracked. One of the areas that was implemented with the medical marijuana use has been the unique identifier track and trace program. And that program makes sure that, you know, just like if your food, if you have anything that is, you know, poisonous or something, there are people that get sick, you can find out where it originated from. So whether it be a meat product or something like that, you can find out exactly where that originated from. So that's my way of interpreting that this track and trace program is going to be able to track the, you know, the weight, anything taken out. So, and I really appreciated that. That helped me to feel a little more comfortable in number 5. You know, if there's going to be anything different than what was intended in the spirit of the purpose of the distribution facility, that, you know, we can identify that. There's going to be an annual audit to track, you know, all of this. And so we're going to have the city and law enforcement work together. And I think there's going to be some additional work to make sure that if there's any reporting that needs to get done to city council or the planning commission, I hope that there's something there as well, as we look at the development agreement for the second reading, that there's some measures in place so that if there's any public safety issues, that it's brought back and we can help address that immediately. But at this time, I see that there, hearing Mayor Cabaldon speak about all the businesses and all of what we've done in the city, and this being, you know, one of the tightest security locations that we have in the city, and a role model for what we can do to improve in those areas as we move forward. And, you know, the work that, you know, fire department and law enforcement have done to work with you. I know they've done some oversight and, you know, continue to monitor, and you'll work well with them. But as we move forward, you know, as what we learn, you know, this is a new program or a new business here. So what we learn and measures we can take to continue to improve it and have maybe a performance-based reporting system, that would be good to have. And I am very supportive of having you in our city. Thank you very much for being patient with us and working through all of the changes that we have in place for the conditional use permit. I see some changes that have happened since our last review, and this is as a result of Planning Commission and now the City Council comments and feedback. And I am supportive of, you know, with the amended sections that were included also, as Commissioner Liebig mentioned, I think that on number 13, you know, we may not have anything specific about the hours, but there is reference to the state of California regulations for the alcohol industry. So I feel pretty comfortable with that language as well. And this time, if there are any changes to item number
5?
5.
Yes. If you'd like. My suggestion would be we will revise item 5 to say, no retail sales of marijuana are permitted, and no distribution of cannabis or cannabis products directly to consumers or retailers shall occur at the facility, nor shall cannabis or cannabis products be distributed directly to consumers from vehicles used to transport product.
Are we all okay with that? Is everybody okay with that?
Should we ask if they're okay with that?
All right, with the applicant,
I
I'm
see-
open up for public comment
I see
again.
a
I'd like
thumbs
to
up.
come up and provide some feedback about that language.
You don't want me to just give you this?
The changes sound appropriate. Yep, we do not intend to have any sales or transactions occur at the site, so everything happening in transit to the location of the businesses, it's wholesale business, so we're very comfortable with that and with the hours of operation being consistent with that of the liquor industry.
All right, and then I have one quick question. It can be traced if it did not happen that way. If it was, could it be traced that it was sold or distributed differently?
Well, everything that goes through our system is traced. We do internal reporting, and then the state will have a system that they also require. So every transportation manifest for product coming into the facility as well as leaving the facility, where it's coming from and where it's going to, all of that will be available within that system and also available in any transparent reporting that we provide to the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, could you provide, just for my personal edification, what is sort of the next steps? Like, is next there going to be an agreement of the development agreement, and then we will issue a conditional use permit? I just trying to figure out the order of things.
Well, assuming the, commission acts this evening on the use permit, we have scheduled second reading of the two ordinances for the council's next meeting. And assuming that they do actually act on those, then once the appeal periods are over, then they would be enacted, and then they would be able to begin operations on this project, fairly soon. So we've finished. We have, tonight is a big step, and last night was a big step as well.
And the development agreement, and when that, the date?
Yeah, the development agreement presumably would be acted on, but the final action on that would be at the council's next meeting. And that is 30 days to go become effective, is that?
Correct.
30 days afterwards, it would be effective.
And that agreement doesn't have to come back to us with the changes that they requested?
No, they did not refer it back to Planning Commission.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Kelter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have another question about tracking. I don't understand the industry well enough to appreciate how much intermixing of product occurs at the retail level. I was in charge of recalling watermelons when they turned out to have pesticide residues in the middle 80s over the July 4th weekend here in California, which was not easy to do because wholesalers would get watermelons from different growers and would deliver, 60 watermelons to a supermarket, and there was no way to tell which melon came from which farm, which is why we had to basically recall every watermelon in the state. That was not easy. So I guess what I'm not seeing here is how detailed the tracking can be and how much mixing occurs at the retail level such that you could tell virtually where every purchase came out of the ground.
That's a good question. The state requires a batch and lot traceability program, which means that every package of goods, no matter what the size, has a lot number and a batch number associated to it. So that'll say, where it was grown, if it went through a manufacturing extraction process, also where that took place, on what date. And that carries through with that product throughout the supply chain, from production through distribution, also to retailer. I don't know yet what the state might require in terms of not allowing retailers to unpackage products, but from what I've seen in Colorado and Washington, everything that comes to the retail store must remain packaged in the form that it's received. So I imagine that California would require something very similar. Right now in the industry, it's not quite the case. Sometimes packages come in a big bulk and they get distributed in smaller pieces. But I don't believe that they would feel comfortable with that for the purpose that you're kind of discussing. We need to be able to trace that back. So I feel confident that your concerns would be addressed through whatever the state was also going to be concerned with and require.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think at this time, we can take a look at taking action on this item.
Just to check,
Yes.
I was ready to move, but I want to make sure that Andrew's comfortable with number 13.
Oh, yes, Andrew, are you comfortable?
I'm unclear at this point whether we're making changes to condition 13 or not.
I'm not going to recommend changes to condition 13.
I'm not seeing any other speak up, so I'm comfortable with it left as is, unless we have specific hours.
So just.
Ready, I'm
Just to be clear that if there is no California statewide regulation on hours of operation for the liquor industry, this condition is meaningless.
So I have seen conditions of approval that say to industry standard of, not alcohol, just other different, development industry standards, not referencing the state of California. So maybe if we remove that and say industry standard, that is a little, I understand that you may see that as more vague, but on the other hand, it also allows an opportunity for, as industry standards change, I'm comfortable with it the way it is, but I would actually lean to make it less specific to state of California, because industry standard is not uncommon in conditions of approval.
I see where Andrew's coming from now. What I didn't understand was that there might not actually be regulations.
There are no regulations?
That's what
There are
I'm
no
tracking is
regulations?
whether-
Well, my first question to staff was if they were able to cite, or if they found specific hours of operation in law or regulations, and it didn't sound like that was the case. I've also done my own research, haven't found it. If the applicant's aware of specific hours of operation that are in law or regulation at the state level for the liquor industry, I'd be more than happy to hear from them, but I don't.
The hours of operation I heard last night was 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And that's in the project description, which I'm comfortable with.
Project description, correct, yeah.
Now I see where you're going. So if
Which
I'm
was the
assuming
delivery
the
time.
applicant is comfortable with that, if that's within their project description,
It would be consistent.
Removing the reference to state of California regulations, that's what I'm recommending.
So I guess the question I have, between the developer agreement and the conditional use permit, are we being consistent?
Are we being consistent? Yes.
Yes, okay.
At current, yes.
And
If we
the
make
hours
it-
I heard last night was 6 AM to 8 PM.
The development agreement does not have any specific hours.
It does not, okay?
I don't think that's within the purview of the development agreement either. I would argue that I think that it's the purview, and the two people with legal backgrounds can confirm, but I would assume that, that the purview of hours of operation is much more appropriate in the conditional use permit rather than the financial agreement.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay.
The conditional use permit and the DA will work in harmony with each other. There is no conflict if the DA is silent on one point. Hours of operation seems to me to be a more appropriate topic for the conditional use permit, because if that needs to change, it's a simpler process to come back to the planning commission to amend a use permit than it is to amend a development agreement. So things like hours of operation seem like the sort of thing that might change over time, either to tighten it or to loosen it, depending on experience and if an industry norm does develop.
Given the uncertainty regarding the state of California regulations, I would propose then that we modify 13 to read, delivery and receiving hours shall be between 6 AM and 8 PM.
Okay.
And just keep it very simple. Or
6 AM and 8 PM.
I see lots of head nodding yes from that direction and the attorney, so.
And the attorney? Okay. Is it, sorry, just wanted to make sure from city staff, are you
Yeah, we would modify
recommending that change be
13
included?
to simply state delivery and receiving hours shall be 6 AM to 8 PM.
Okay, and I just wanted to check in with the applicant on, you're okay with that? Great, all right. Then that will be revised as well. So we have 3 revisions to what we have in front of us. We have, in the specific conditions, number 4, the verbal change to number 5 that was just provided, and number 13. That's all we have at this time.
As read by Commissioner Liebig.
Yes. Okay.
I'd like
Okay.
to, oh,
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You can do this one.
I move recommended action with modifications as read by staff to condition number 5 and with modification to condition number 13 and including condition number 4, which is within the packet.
And a
it's verb-
second has, oh, go
And it's
ahead.
verbally provided for number 5.
As verbally provided for number 5 and 13.
And I second that complicated motion.
All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Abstentions?
I'd like to abstain.
Like to abstain? Commissioner Sternfels abstained. Commissioner Liebig moved. Commissioner Austin seconded, and that is the vote. Everybody else said aye. All right. We're all done there? Next item on the agenda is item number 3. Let's see.
Before we proceed to item number 3, I'd like to read the appeal process into the record, please. Any interested party may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission in this matter to the City Council by filing a written appeal with the city clerk within 15 days of tonight's action, and that appeal must be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tilley. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing regarding proposed modifications to Allura at Washington Square, tentative subdivision map number 4836, plan development permit and conditional use permit at 412 to 420 and 425 6th Street. Ms. Helen.
Good evening, Chair Guerrero and members of the commission. This item is the public hearing for minor modifications to the previously approved Allura at Washington Square tentative map, plan development permit, and conditional use permit. This project was originally approved in 2006. In its first iteration, it consisted of 25 single-family lots and 2 multifamily lots. In 2007, the applicant came back and modified the project. They added an additional lot of property and increased the number of single-family units to 70. At that time, it also included a 3,500 square foot community building. And in February, the commission held a workshop on this project to discuss the changes. At that time, the commission's primary concerns seem to center around noise. The north side of this project is directly adjacent to the UP tracks there, and there are 2 blocks of houses that are fairly close to the tracks there. The applicant had proposed balconies and rear patios for those lots. However, general plan policies would prohibit that because the noise levels, according to their noise study, do exceed allowable noise levels for exterior noise. We have done some extra research. The square footage, combined square footage of the rear lots for those properties is approximately the same size as a community area that they have that is, can you go back one, Katie?
I didn't realize they could see something. Look at this.
Actually, I wanted the one after that that showed the blocks of houses. Okay. There's a community area that's kind of in the middle of blocks 4, 7, and 8 there, and that square footage is about the same as the rear lot square footages there. And because of that, excuse me, should the Planning Commission wish to make a finding that this area will provide the requisite substitute exterior space that is involved in blocks 1 and 6, which is the ones adjacent to the tracks, then the units could be constructed as proposed by the applicant. This map was approved originally in 2007. Normally, lots or maps have to be finished within 36 months. The reason this one is still alive after all this time is because starting in 2008, the state legislature approved a set of map extensions due to the economic downturn, and because of that, the applicant's map is still good until November of 2017. I did want to note that earlier this week we did receive communication from one of the local Native American tribes. They had requested additional language in the conditions pertaining to tribal cultural resources. The memo that I presented you with tonight does beef up those conditions over what was originally approved back in 2007, and staff would request, should you choose to approve this project tonight, that you incorporate those 6 conditions into the ones that are already in the body of the report. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is in attendance and I believe has a presentation for you. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time or later on after the applicant makes their presentation. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Yeah, I want to ask a question about the tribal-related conditions of approval. So we spoke at a previous meeting about how some of the policies have changed and that staff has to reach out to tribes in a more robust way than was, I believe, currently required prior under state policy. So the recommended conditions of approval, although I realize that these are project-specific, would these or a version of these serve as a template for conditions of approval moving forward? Or is this simply to projects that are within kind of areas that are under tribal purview?
Well, pretty much everything is under tribal
That's what it seems like, yeah.
purview, as the whole area was traditionally, at least some portion of the year,
Right.
utilized by the various tribes.
Mhm.
The conditions that we presented to you basically just call out what is already enumerated in state policy, so that it's more clear. The first four are more procedures, and the last two are more the policies.
So this might be more of a comment than a question, but I know then when applicants are coming forward, sometimes, we can present this as possibly this may be a standard condition of approval. Like, we kind of have our standard public works conditions approvals and fire. Because I know that one of our concerns was that this is something that can add some additional time to the review process.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I would anticipate that conditions along these lines could start to become fairly commonplace
Yeah.
going forward, especially 5 and 6 largely restate existing obligations. But part of our objective on this topic is to be much better prepared in the event of any type of discovery of resources.
Right.
And
Especially
so-
given recent developments.
Yeah, so and this is this is good for us,
Yep.
our staff and our inspection staff, as well as the contractors and developer who will be out in the field, just to have a better upfront understanding of what to do in that situation.
Yeah, thank you. That's all.
So you have any other questions?
Wait.
One, okay. So I'd like to open it up for public comment and for the applicant to provide a presentation.
Hi, my name is Serena Trocta. I'm with Full Circle Architecture, the design firm that is presenting the project to you today. I brought the same presentation that I had before, but I know that you've seen it, and so I basically just wanted to touch base with you about what we heard from you last month and how we've been working with staff on the conditions of approval. I think we're very excited about the project. We heard feedback on the fencing. We appreciate that that's been looked into in terms of how, our project is going to relate to the railroad. We also heard feedback about the parking and to be able to put in parking standards and things like that that would be able to be worked out with the homeowners association, and those are getting integrated in, they were integrated into the conditions of approval for that. And I'm here to answer any additional questions that you may have, and I'm happy to give an overview of the presentation again. I want to be able to use your time wisely, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Trocta. Could you just briefly explain how we went from a density of 25 homes per acre to 23.4, so it's a slight reduction, 1.4 per acre, and we got rid of the community building. How did that happen?
In the whys or the what were we thinking, kind of?
No, like what moved?
Said nicer.
Well, basically, a couple of things happened, is that the project ownership has shifted since we brought it to you before in 2008. And in 2008, the project ownership team had on our team a child care operator. And so when we were coming in with the project originally, we had a child care center as a component of the project. And the previous developer wanted to increase the density for the additional revenue to be able to help fund the overall project. So now, shifting forward with our new development team, we do not have a child care operator on board, and the current developer is not interested in pushing the density to that degree. We're not looking for a density bonus. We're able to pull back and we've taken out 2 units. Originally, it was 70 units plus the child care facility, and now it's 68 units. And what that did was really allow us to open up the site plan and make it a bit more comfortable. If you would go to that other plan that Kathy had, yes. So if you'll notice on E Street, for instance, we now have a little green belt in between two units that are at the end. So we have two units that we're envisioning as sort of more custom units to front the street. We have a little green belt area that's going to help us with our stormwater control. And then we have another group of 5 units there. In the original plan, all units. And then the same thing there you'll see in Block 7. We've got our 2 Blocks 1 and 6 that are sort of shielding the railroad noise. And then stepping down from there, coming toward that central green that Kathy was mentioning, we've done the similar thing there where we've pulled off 2 units to be a little bit more custom there, give a little bit of a focal feature at the end of the central green, and given us another area for managing stormwater. We've done the same thing over on Block 3, just basically giving the site plan a little bit more room. And that's how we pulled just from that, that little adjustment to the density, we feel has been made a marked improvement to the livability of the development.
I do have to say, I know it decreases the density and you lose the bonus, but I think it does improve the character of the neighborhood. I like the flow, and I'm happy that you've also been working with staff on parking, which I still foresee this as being a problem, at least in the near term, until Washington can build out a bit more. So I'm happy with the project, and I also would thank staff for creativity and working through the noise issues. So.
Me too, thank you. That's wonderful.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Just quickly, can you speak to the thought process behind the 2 smallest units, the A1 and the A2? And can you also help me understand, do they or do they not include parking?
Okay, so they do include parking, so they each have 1 parking space. We're not asking for any parking concessions on the project. The project's being parked per the regulations, which I can't, there's a 1 for 1, 1.5, all that whole matrix. So, and the idea behind the small A units is that we've really tried to provide a range of unit styles and unit sizes so that we could actually encourage a diversity of people that would be interested in living there, to be able to encourage a diverse community. So we have those are studio loft units that are about 750 square feet. So they're going to be very, very affordable, based on a per square foot cost. We also have larger B units that are there on the, I can't see the lot number, Block 5, Block 5. They're more square units, and at their second floor plan, it's sort of a traditional kitchen, dining, den, living area that's all on one level, sort of a great room concept. And then upstairs, we have all the bedrooms. We sort of envision those as our family units because they have the 3 bedrooms upstairs. Then we also have the narrower units that have the tandem parking in the garage, and we have a mix of a loft unit as well as what we call a double master. So we've got 1 floor with its own bedroom and bath, and then another floor with its own bedroom and bath, and we could foresee that for 2 professionals. So we've really tried to encourage a diversity of buyer to the community, and the A units are just one method for doing that.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? I have one question. Under the project conditions, the subdivider should enter into inclusionary housing agreement with the Housing and Community Investment Division. And I just wanted to ask, are those units identified already in?
We have not identified those units. I do anticipate that those 2 A units that are the small units will be part of that equation, but it's not our intention to have those units be any different than any of the other units. So we envision that those will be picked randomly through working with staff to figure out how we can meet the needs of the community best. We haven't negotiated those specific units or where they'll be.
Okay. I just like to make sure that that when those units are identified, that it is providing the support of those that need those units. So, and I don't want to make any exceptions, but I just want to relay that to you.
Yeah, should note for the commission that it is possible that they may not include units on site here. There are other options under our current version of our inclusionary housing ordinance that do include payment of an in lieu fee. And so it is possible that that may be the ultimate conclusion of those negotiations.
Okay. Thank you. I think that, no more questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I was going to hit the additional conditions
Oh, sure.
on tribal considerations
Yes.
after we come back to deliberation, but I did want to get your opinion on these, as I wouldn't necessarily agree with all 6 of these off the bat without some vetting. So I would actually like to hear your opinion. Are you comfortable with all 6 of these?
We have had an opportunity to review these conditions, and actually, for our specific situation on this particular project, we're fine with these conditions, because basically 1 through 3 we've already completed. We retained an archaeologist, Sean Jensen from Genesis, to provide a study of the site already. He's done that, he's prepared a report. He's also, because of the proximity of nearby finds, he has gone to the site, he has done some investigative digging to find out if he feels that find is going to be spreading over onto our property, so that we could manage that situation. And he does not feel that way. So we've had enough opportunity, probably because of the time frame of our project, being here so long, that we've had an opportunity to get comfortable with the idea that there might be something there, and have had the opportunity to review with him. He's also had extensive experience working with Native American community in joint monitoring operations and on his own monitoring. So we've had an opportunity to discuss these conditions with him, and we're comfortable.
Thank you. That actually helps me a lot.
Thank you. All right. I think that's it. Oh, yes, Commissioner Kelch, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick comment about inclusionary housing. I appreciate very much the way you discussed what your plans are for the inclusionary housing units. I understand Mr. Tilley's point that the city ordinance does permit in lieu of fee, but I'm also impressed that social outcomes are likely to be quite a bit better with true inclusionary housing rather than off-site housing. So I appreciate your attitude toward that, and I hope that's the way it turns out.
I hope so, too. That's a matter of economics, so we do
understand.
what we can.
Okay. Thank you. And I think we're all done at this point? No requests? Okay. Thank you.
Great.
I
Thank you
appreciate
very much.
coming up here. Okay. We have one request to speak. Mickey Fawcett.
It seems like I was just here talking about the same area, but my concerns or questions were all taken care of in the statement that the developer just talked about, hiring the archaeologist, and they're comfortable. Because my feelings, talking to archaeologists that have dealt with the area, that there's a lot there. Just be careful. Just be careful. There's a lot there. Up around the tracks, that area is kind of disturbed. I've mentioned this stuff before, that there's just, the area over there just really, nobody's dug deep down, nothing major over there. Half the project is, really nothing's been there except for, county maintenance yard? It's supposed to be a park, but anyway, that's, I just thank the developer, for, bringing that forward. In the past, it seems like you really had to work to get that information. I think I mentioned in the CalSTRS building, right there next to the river, off the levee, and away from where the boatyard was, a lot of stuff should have been in there, and a couple of boxes of broken bottles, and that was it. So I just, they've hired the archaeologist, and the archaeologist is comfortable, and so I'm happy with that, on behalf of the Historical Society. That's great. The other thing would be, and this already sounds like it's a done project since it started, 8 years ago? The design has already been done, but, we're always talking about whatever the boundaries are now of the Washington Historic Plan. That area sometimes is included, and I think sometimes isn't, depending what year you look at it. So the house, I think there's a house on the corner there on 6th and E that's, the Victorian type Queen Anne cottage, and just think about that, when the designs. We like the history. See the shirts.
Thank you.
Mr. Fawcett, thank you and the Historical Society for always paying attention and weighing in. We appreciate it.
Yes. It's very good.
Great shirts.
Yeah, yeah, matching shirts.
Okay, and so. All right, now we'll close the public comment and go back to deliberations among the commissioners. And to my left, Commissioner Liebig, do you have any questions, comments?
No, on the added conditions, I was comfortable with 4, 5, and 6. My concern was actually with 1, 2, and 3 for this project. If they're completed with this, then I say we move forward. I'm not comfortable necessarily making this the standard for all projects throughout the
Good
city
point.
without
That's a good point.
a little bit more vetting.
Okay.
So, and that's it. But otherwise, I look forward to the project.
All right. Commissioner Kelfer?
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tumper?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Commissioner Sternfels?
Oh, I always have something to say. So, we've already kind of vetted this project, so I didn't have much to say about the project or to the project applicant, but just speaking again on what we're trying to achieve here, this project was, subject to the economic downturn. I'm really happy to see, thank you, not just representative, but the applicants who are taking a chance on making this happen. I have faith that this neighborhood, the Washington neighborhood and West Sacramento in general, is really poised for some really amazing and high-quality development in the very near future. So, yeah, I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. Density, I'm actually very happy with the density of it. I like seeing that level of density, and it's very comparable with an adjacent property, the Harriet Lane, I believe. Also appreciate Commissioner Kelter's comments on inclusionary housing. I, too, definitely prefer that developers have inclusionary housing scattered within a property, but I realize that there are market forces. Regardless, whether there are fees or affordable housing or inclusionary housing units that are built, we on the Planning Commission recently heard about the demolition of a not-to-code property, which you can imagine was a low-rent property. And so I like to make sure that we as a city are continuing to commit to create homes that are affordable for the people who live here and work here and raise families here and retire here. So there's that. And then also just wanted to comment on the open space. I do appreciate that there is a significant amount, that there was attempts to put a significant amount of open space here, but I would assume that they're also going to be paying some sort of parks fee, or are they?
No, there will be parks fees as part, at the building permit phase.
Okay. One of the things that I often, when I was on the Parks Commission, mentioned to residents is so often residents in established neighborhoods were concerned that they weren't getting new parks or their parks weren't being improved. In our new developments, park fees go to creating parks. So Southport, which is a much newer, many new developments, have a large number and very high quality parks. Our north area of town doesn't. And as we see more development like this happen, that means that our parks in the north area of town will get improved. And that's going to benefit community health, and that's going to benefit families and the aging. And I just think that that's great. So it's not just about creating more houses here. We're also creating more funding for the kinds of things that we want to do in our city. So anyway, that being said, thank you for doing this. I'd love to see these get built and move forward.
And I just have just a few comments. I also want to emphasize the need for having inclusionary housing. I work on homeless issues as one of my areas that I work on in my full-time job, and the shortage of affordable housing is so significant. And this is close to an area where people can commute comfortably. The city is looking at transportation and modifying how, public transportation is, the movement of public transportation in the city. And, there's a cost associated with that. So with the parking being restricted and how we're going to, move forward as future developments take place and incorporate public transportation, we just want to be mindful that this is included. And as we make some decisions, nobody's there to represent those folks today. They're not living there. But I think that this is going to be an area that if you can contribute, you just letting, whoever is, working on that, and I'm on the Citizen Advisory, I'll also include this information, just to, just keep that in mind as we move forward. I do have one question, should there be a pause of a discovery because of the Historical Society being present. The consequences of that, if there's a pause in moving forward in the construction or whatever, if you can give me a little more background on how that works, and if there are any, if there are delays and expirations to things like, that need to get going.
Well, it's, if cultural resources are encountered on the property during construction, it certainly will result in some level of delay, because that would need to be addressed. Part of that will depend on what is discovered and what the extent of that discovery is. We have had occasions where that has delayed things for a matter of a few days, and then in other cases where it's delayed it, several months. Each case is unique, so part of our objective with some of these additional conditions is to make sure that we have a game plan already ready to implement should that occur, so that we're being as proactive as possible. But a lot of that will really depend on what is actually found. And if it is human remains, there's a whole procedure that's applicated in here. And so, but there's no doubt that a discovery would result in some level of delay.
Right, and, I just hope that the developer is patient with that process as we move forward. And if there are anything that we need to be kept informed of on this particular development, you can just keep us posted if anything happens. There's another development that I know that there's some changes in the Southport area. So, there could be, the applicant may have a different idea and just make some changes, and hopefully we'll have any updates on this particular development to the commission.
Yeah, certainly as the project gets closer to construction phase, we'll update the commission at that time.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, at this time, I don't see any other questions, comments from the commissioners?
Chair Guerrero, we do have to make a decision on the noise-related matter before you. Condition number 11
Yes.
would actually specify that they would not be able to have backyards, patios, porches, et cetera, on those northerly units. However, if the commission were to make a finding of general plan consistency related to the noise exposure for this center recreational area that Kathy stated during her presentation, if that was what the commission was comfortable doing as this is in an urban infill area, then we would ask that you enumerate that finding as part of your motion, and then you would want to strike condition 11.
We would like to strike it.
Thank you for that reminder, Mr.
Yes.
Tilley.
This is a matter of general plan consistency ultimately, and even though that is part of your typical motion, it would be best that you would enumerate that aspect of it if that was the commission's pleasure tonight.
Okay, is there any discussion regarding that particular issue?
I just want to clarify that city staff is comfortable with that change in recommendation.
That is something we have done previously in the Bridge District and some of our other urban areas where the existing noise environment is already at or over above our exterior thresholds. And so this is an alternative means to try to work in a more urban context.
Okay. Any other questions regarding that? All right. Then I'll accept a motion with that additional change. Is that the appropriate motion? But if you can provide a little guidance with us, for us to do that. Are we supposed to
I bet
take that
Commissioner
first?
Liebig knows what to say.
Or?
There has to be a
So
finding.
It has to be a finding,
Yeah, so
okay.
we would
And
ask
then-
as part of your motion that you would find that project is consistent with the noise element of the general plan by virtue of providing that center common area that does comply with our exterior noise thresholds.
Okay.
Strike condition 11, and then make sure you include 1 through 6 on the memo.
Wow, that's right.
I think we're at an impasse.
I don't think we have a problem with that, but.
Okay. I move that we approve the project based on staff's recommendation, that we strike condition number 11, that we find the alternative outdoor space in compliance with the general plan. I cannot repeat everything that.
If I can make a suggestion, I think you can accomplish this by moving the recommended action with Mr. Tilley's additions.
With Mr. Tilley's additions and with the additional 6.
Yes.
Yes.
Conditions.
Detail the memo from Kathy Allen. Does it have to come from one person? I'm so sorry.
Yes, that's fine, that works. And,
Second.
second, Commissioner Sternfeld, Commissioner Liebig moved, and Commissioner Sternfeld second. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, this item moves as approved. Mr. Tilley? Thank you.
Any interested party may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission's matter to the City Council by filing a written appeal with the city clerk within 10 days of tonight action, and that appeal must be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the general administration of informal discussion. Any? Yes.
I was speaking with Mr. Tilley earlier. I am not going to be able to make it, but I have attended the planning commissioner training. Is it put on by the APA? I think it's very high quality. I believe that it is next Saturday. And I also believe that there is availability, that the city may be able to provide resources. So if you are interested and not yet signed up, I would encourage you to do so. Are you organizing it? Okay, so whoever is
Commissioner
highly
Sternfeld, would you
recommend
like
it.
to put another plug in?
I think Ms. Austin did a fine job of plugging the event. The event will be held on the 16th. It is going to be held in the community center here, so it's a great opportunity for us to showcase our downtown area here. And we have, I think, close to 40 already registered from the northern region, so from some rural areas in Sacramento and everywhere in between. And we are still accepting attendee requests probably through the middle of next week, because we can get up to about 60.
If any commissioners do wish to attend that haven't already done so, please let us know and we will sign you up.
I don't have the whole day available. I have parts of the day. Is it possible to do that?
I did a half day last
You did a half day? Okay, I may do that then. I'll follow up with you. And I also wanted to wish Commissioner Austin a happy birthday.
Oh my gosh, the big 2-9.
Sorry, we shouldn't be laughing.
Any other formal discussions, right? All right. We
Move
will
to
adjourn.